call to order this special board meeting agenda, April 17th. Ross Valley Sanitary District.
Here. Director Gaffney.
Here.
Director Kelly.
Here.
Okay, maybe rise. Pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That being said, we'll now adjourn to closed session. I'd like to reconvene the meeting of the Ross Valley Sanitary District, April 17th, 2024 to order. Nothing to report from our closed session. Number 6 is the approval of the agenda. It's been said that we should move item 13 up to now. Okay. Do I have a motion?
I moved that.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 So moved. Okay. So item 13, presentation on Larkspur Landing property and Larkspur general plan update.
Yes, thank you. We'll just go ahead and introduce Riley Hurd, who's our counsel to the board on real estate matters. And then we also have Bryant Sparkman here in the audience from Century Urban, our real estate consultant. Riley?
Thank you, Steve. Good evening, members of the board and staff. Coming back before you this evening to discuss the Larkspur Landing parcel. As you know, I've come before you, I think 3 or 4 times now over the past couple of years to discuss the housing element update process in Larkspur and what that means for the parcel that's owned by the district. Just as a refresher, and for those who may be watching in the audience or online, the parcel is located over in what I still call the Larkspur Landing area near the ferry building. It's undeveloped at this time, and it has been selected by the city as one of the housing element sites to accommodate the regional housing needs allocation given to Larkspur by the state of California. So since we last met, there have been numerous kind of steps along the way that the city has undertaken to get all of the sites that are in the housing element ready to accommodate the housing that has been assigned to each property. So under the new state laws, cities are only permitted to utilize objective standards when they review housing projects. So the first heavy lift that the city was going through was developing their own set of objective development standards for the city. And I can report that the city was very collaborative with the district, given the critical role that this property plays in meeting the housing needs if it's to be developed. And they worked closely with both myself, staff members, and consultants to fine-tune the development standards to be sure that they lead to a project that works at the site. So I'll give you a little overview of those standards. This is just the cover page, so you can see that this is what was adopted. It went into effect October of last year. And these are the design criteria if you want to move forward with a project. And what they've done is broken up the city or the sites that have been selected into different zones that they call transects. And this is a map of the sites that were given different transects. And I'll try to zoom in a little bit here, although it's not so important, but we're the orange. And we're over here, of course, on the eastern side. And this zone that's highlighted in orange is what's called the T5 Transit Village. And what's important to know about that is this is the zone that allows the highest level of development in regards to the size of the buildings, the length of them, the density of them. This is where the city is saying we'd like the higher density projects to be developed. And that's in the Larkspur Landing area, as well as down by the Cost Plus Shopping Center. As you can see, the rest of the city scales downward to the T4 and T3 less dense zones. So this was a big step for them to get this adopted. And the Ross Valley site is actually in the document as an example of how the T5 zone could be built out. And on the screen, they just did kind of a charrette of what a project might look like. This isn't necessarily what a developer would ultimately do, but it was kind of a proof of concept that the density that they're calling for could fit here. And as you scroll through the document, you see things like height limits, and in this zone, it ranges from 60 to 80 feet tall. You see setbacks and all the things that you might typically see in a regular zoning code have been placed into here, but in an objective way so that they can be utilized if and when someone comes forward with a project. The first thing I wanted to highlight was that those objective standards have been adopted since we last met, and that is in place. But there are a few other things that need to happen for us to start even contemplating the next steps for the property, or for a developer to be able to start using those objective standards to come up with a project. So those things are all happening together. And that is an update of the city's general plan, an update of the housing element, which is a chapter of the general plan, a rezoning of all of the sites, including the Ross Valley site, and an environmental impact report pursuant to state law for all of those actions. So it's a very heavy lift. It's a big legislative change for the city. So I'm just going to highlight a couple aspects of each of those as we move forward. So I previously presented to the board the fact that there's a new general plan designation that's been drafted for the first time in Larkspur. It's called Mixed Use 1. And the sole recipient of that new designation is the Ross Valley site. And it is a custom tailored general plan designation to facilitate a project at the property. And we worked with the city regarding the wording of that, what uses are allowed, and so on and so forth. And that will be coming forward in the near future for city adoption. We also carefully worked with the city regarding something that's important to them as well as to the district. It might be hard to see for you, but the gray area is the site, and there is some open space to the east where what's known as Tubbs Lake, probably more aptly named Tubbs Pond, is located. And there is going to be a buffer zone between any development and that open space to kind of preserve and help with the transition from any new development over to the Tubbs Lake Park and the like. And we work very closely, particularly Gia Moore, regarding what the shape of that buffer should be so that we could both preserve the maximum developability of the property and ensure tree preservation and an appropriate buffer. And that was implemented by the city. So again, it's been very collaborative every step of the way. So that's the general plan. Below the general plan in the hierarchy of documents is the zoning. And this gets a little complex with the introduction of the form-based code, but basically your general plan is the constitution of development. The zoning implements that constitution with more specific standards. And then the form-based code sits over on the side, and that is kind of your design guidelines, if you will. So also coming forward in the near future is the zoning for this site. And we have been assigned a minimum density of 25 units per acre and a maximum density of 35 units per acre. And that is a density range that the city is using for nearly all of those T5 Transit Village higher density properties. And we think that that's an appropriate range for the site and something that we can work within, or a developer can work within, to bring a product that fits the area. There were a number of additional things that made it into the draft of that zoning ordinance that were going to restrict the property and require things of the district or a developer at this site. And after conversation, it was determined that those additional things didn't really meet the spirit of facilitating housing development, which is the key thing the state is looking for. And again, more collaboration. The city worked with us to edit this draft zoning and come up with something that is most likely to facilitate development. And that is where the draft sits today. So that was very helpful, I think, for the marketability and utility of the property. So the final things the city has to do is get that environmental impact report out and circulated for public comment and then finalized. And then, of course, probably the toughest part for them has been getting their housing element certified by HCD. And every time you submit something to HCD, it triggers a 2-month comment process. Then you get the comments back as the city, and you're refining and retooling the document. Then you resubmit again. So it's a bit of an onerous, time-consuming process, which is why it's not over the finish line yet. But it's starting to look very, very close. And I just heard from the planning director for the city of Larkspur that they expect to bring this package of all of these things, except for the objective standards, which were already adopted, but the general plan, the housing element, the new zoning, and the EIR all forward to their planning commission and city council in either May or June of this year. So, I mean, that's just 2 months away at this point. And if and when those things are all completed, and if they are passed in the form substantially similar to what I've just described and what we've seen so far, the Ross Valley Sanitary site will be ready to go. Fully rezoned, new general plan designation. It's a housing element site. It will have been covered in the EIR with an anticipated density. So it really tees up the property, and it frankly adds an immense, I would say exponential, truthfully, amount of value to the site from how it sat when this process first began. And you may remember, I was first engaged by your district to describe the old entitlements for the property and what was there and are they still effective. So I know I've covered a lot. I could spend a very long time on each one of these categories, but I wanted to hit the high level and let the board know just how much has been going on, particularly between staff and the city, and how far we've gotten, and that we are actually close to the finish line. And I'm sure you may have some questions about this.
Thank you, Riley. Alicia, Steve.
Thank you, Riley. It was very comprehensive, and yeah, the themes here are, there's several moving parts, but they are all coming together in one package, and amazingly, very soon. But they do have to get the state approval We're prepared and we can talk with Bryant and answer some questions about what does the road ahead look like once the city's made some important decisions.
Tom?
Riley, great. I'd love to hear the update and the schedule. May or June of what year?
This year.
Yeah, great question. That's May or June of this year. I've yet to see one that doesn't slip, and I attended the first planning commission meeting about Larkspur's housing element, and I think raucous might be a good description. It had nothing to do with any of the Larkspur landing sites and everything to do with the sites that were more in the traditional downtown core. So I think there's going to be a lot more public discussion about that aspect. So it could push it a little, but that's the schedule for this year.
Thank you.
And you said that there are 25 to 35 units per acre. That's for the property that the district owns.
That's correct.
And how many acres is it?
12?
That's a good question.
About 10,
It's
10.17.
yeah.
Right. And then
Sometimes it's a moving target, and I should clarify that the district has a pump station down by Sir Francis Drake, and that will be retained, and that will not be ever wrapped into any of those potential future developments. I'm told that's an important infrastructure, and we need access to it, and everyone's aware of that. It's been shared with the city. So I just kind of use the number 10 as the multiplier for density calcs.
And does this preclude any luxury hotels? That conversation that used to go on.
It does not preclude that. So the mixed use 1 designation allows a variety of uses, including residential, commercial, hotels. It was kind of a coup. It added a lot of flexibility to the site without requiring any particular use. You may recall the previous entitlements, it required the hotel, and hotels fell out of favor, and where that will stand when this happens, your guess is as good as mine. But the flexibility is valued.
And do hotels count towards a unit?
No, they do not.
Are there things put on the property like that we've got to maintain in perpetuity a bus station, and we have to fix and maintain the small little reservoir or lake or pond or whatever we want to call it up there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So both of those items, as well as multiple others, some with significant price tags, were in the original draft of the zoning for this property. And when we saw that, it was a bit heavy. And so that's when the discussions took place. And frankly, they were, like I said, collaborative, because we just identified that, a developer or potential purchaser, the district, whomever the end user is, things get a lot harder if you're supposed to be dealing with a lake on someone else's property or something else, like building bus stations. Now, there are things that come with development. There's a requirement of connectivity between the Marin Country Mart area and the neighborhood to the east of the property. There's, other fees and things associated with the development, but those all seemed a little bit more standard and were things that one would expect. But those other things you just referenced were removed.
Excellent.
I have a couple of questions.
Ma'am, please.
Okay. Hi, Riley.
Hey.
So just one quick question, and the other one, I don't know if it's going to be appropriate, but oh well. Is there a cap on height?
60 feet.
Yeah, so
That's
the
5 stories? About?
The T5 Transit Village has a base height limit of 60 feet. Then it has what's known as a bonus height that allows you to go up to 80 feet.
Okay, and it has in there what the bonus, what you need to do to get that extra height in the,
That's correct. And what you need to do to get the extra height is provide affordable housing.
yes. However, the higher you go, the more infrastructure is required, from what I understand. Because I think there's different regulations. I don't want to go into all that now. My other question is about the new rental law that passed in Larkspur. Will that impose or put any, let's say, impact it, whether positive or negative?
So I can't tell you I've followed Larkspur's rental ordinance particularly closely, but I have read about it. And my understanding is it would not impact a property such as this one. And that it is applies kind of retroactively to existing buildings. Now, there may be some changes to that, but there's statewide law regarding multifamily buildings and the inability of cities to control and put rent caps on new multifamily buildings.
Okay, it's good to hear.
But yeah, just one more thing is, within our project, there undoubtedly will be a percentage of affordable housing that is capped and deed restricted at a certain percentage of income.
What is a percentage of affordable income do you expect?
It's a bit complicated. The numbers are released every year. The low income is the 80% of median area income is utilized for low. And what they do is say, this percentage of a person's income should go towards rent, and kind of figure it out from there. And it changes annually.
So there's hope of being very low affordable housing there.
Yeah, I do a lot of these projects, and any project that we're doing these days has a component of affordable housing for multiple reasons. A, Larkspur has an inclusionary housing ordinance. It's required. B, if you want to trigger the provisions of the state density bonus law and other protections of state law, there are certain minimum percentages of affordable housing that need to be required in order to avail yourselves of those, and you'd be crazy not to.
Okay, I'm hopeful. Thank you.
What do we want to do next? Are we done with this item, or did you want
Well-
Brian to say something? or-
Well, I would just take us back, I couldn't tell you exactly how much time it's been, but we did have a community outreach strategy that we adopted around this property. And we had a timeline in there that really was to be kicked off based on these city decisions getting made and actions being completed. And so that still holds. Staff recommend that we dust that off, but use that to communicate expectations for the process going forward, which involves things like issuing a notice of availability under the Surplus Lands Act and kicking off the different timetables that kicks off in terms of soliciting potential developers and affordable housing team members of those development teams, et cetera. And we can dust off, all of those presentations that we've made to remind ourselves of what that is exactly. But we have a plan, a path forward that could be initiated in the next few months, depending on the pace of the city's processes. So
I have a
please stay
question
tuned.
to the board. Should we have an open house or something for this? What do you think? Just to invite the public, make it more transparent. I know we've had meetings and I know it's on the website, but maybe because I've helped with planning in the past, maybe Riley, you can chime in. I just wonder if we should do charrettes or, I don't know, just.
Yeah.
I was
Thought on that. I think you definitely want to wait until we know what we have, until you even think about an open house, and that's, you know, a final decision on the zoning and the housing element and the general plan and what the EIR covers. All four of those things will be very relevant to the future of this site. So at that time, it would probably, that's when it would be more appropriate to share information about what's occurred. Now, of course, to your point, there's been multiple public meetings, I believe a mailer, there was a survey that was done, all types of things, but I think the idea is to restart that process when we know what we have. But I'd also point out that, you know, design charrettes and the like are typically done when you have a potential project and you are a developer that's thinking of doing it. I obviously don't know which direction the board will go with in regards to this property, but it'd be hard to have a design charrette at an open house before you have a development partner or a purchaser or something like that, because who knows what would be their desires in regards to just make something up, you know, height, locations, setbacks, all of those things. It's hard to say unless you're the actual designer.
Thank you, Riley. Are we wrapping, Riley?
I believe so. Okay.
Thanks for the good news.
Thanks, Riley.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Riley.
Future board meeting.
Yeah, we'll continue to, you know, look at potential agenda items. But it very well, we could roll that into, you know, a notice of availability under the Surplus Lands Act as an agenda item, and then have information pertaining to that agenda item.
Public to raise items not on agenda or for future agendas. Here, so.
Is anybody online?
No. We do have.
We do have a member of the public online, but they are not raising their hands to speak.
For 8, administer the oaths of office for board directors, Doug Kelly and Priscilla. Stephen's gonna do the honors for us.
Absolutely.
I'll administer the oath for Doug first, to Director Kelly. Repeat after me. I, Doug Kelly,
I, Doug Kelly,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm, I thought it was a choice,
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution for the State of California,
and the Constitution for the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
discharge the duties of the office I'm about to enter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
4 more years.
Director Silla,
Yes,
repeat after me. I,
I,
Mary Silla,
Mary Silla,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution for the State of California,
and to the Constitution for the State of California,
that I will take this obligation freely
that I will take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I am about to enter. Thank you.
So you got appointed by the Register of Voters.
Yep. As did you. And you, and you, and you.
Committees report out. Finance Committee, take it away, Tom.
Okay, Finance Committee met yesterday, Michael and I. The district is in sound, remains in sound financial, excellent condition. We heard word that we received the April payments for property taxes and service charges, so that's the second half of our revenue stream, and we get another 5% in June. The district is transitioning to a new finance person, and so there may be some slight revisions to the report that we'll find out later.
And they have accepted an offer, correct?
Conditional offer of employment.
Let's see, oh yeah, we heard that there has been response to our Proposition 218 rate letter. We've gotten one letter so far.
One protest.
That's not very many. We also reviewed 3 capital projects, major capital project expenditures, which the board's also going to consider. Anything else, Michael? Did we?
No. Pretty straightforward. Finances all good.
Everything looks good.
Central Marin Sanitary. Sure.
Let me put that on, sure. The first thing we did, we gave a resolution of appreciation for Kenneth Spray, who retired after many years and doing great work on the financials of CMSA, winning us many awards. That resolution was read by Corey Spray, who has taken his job. That was Michael's suggestion. I like that.
Not no relation.
So that was nice. We also put out a request for proposal for consulting services for the nutrient removal alternatives evaluation and facilities plan project. This is going to be huge. It's going to be very expensive. It's going to go on all over California in the San Francisco Bay Area, where there are nutrients being discharged, which causes an algae bloom, which causes oxygen to be removed from the water and therefore fish deaths. And so, we don't know what that's going to cost. We don't know how long it's going to take. So we're really at the very beginning of that, but we'll keep you appraised of that. We did a fiscal year pavement repair project. We awarded a contract for $234,275 for the pavement on the property, which has been, needs maintenance. So it's time to maintain the cement. We had to write a resolution to the state and to water board and to all sorts of agencies, adopting a resolution number 361 to authorize the general manager to represent the agency on the Marin outfall diffuser cleaning project. In other words, where we put the sewage out after it's been treated is at about 1.5 miles into the bay, and it's a pipe, and they have poles that come up that have flaps, and so the water can be discharged. But after some period of time, it gets filled with sand and rocks and it has to be cleaned out. And it's actually a human being that goes down there in scuba gear and
Not a job which I would want to do.
no.
Inside.
They go inside the pipe,
Yep.
into the pipe.
Yeah. Not fun. And they clean out the sand and sludge and whatever's there. And by the way, it's basically, you can see about 6 inches in front of you. So it's not a pleasant job. But
Oh, yeah, no,
Are you kidding? It's down under the bay? How scary.
yeah,
it's dark.
yeah. But the first thing that has to happen is you have to authorize the general manager to represent the agency in the letters. And so that's, again, the beginning of that project. We've done that. Let me see what years we did that.
Oh, it was about 10 years ago.
Yep. But it was, what do we say?
But the thing is, the whole bottom of the bay is a living object. It goes up, it goes down,
Mm-hmm.
depends on the tides. So sometimes those pipes are
Buried?
they can get pretty close to being buried. Some of them actually are. There's some at the very beginning where it's clogged on the inside. And so they can't get all the way back to where those pipes are. But they've got enough. It's not a problem.
So the letters go to the Marine applicants to the San Francisco Bay Regional Water Board, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Bay Conservation and Development Commission. So that's who it's got to go to.
Big deal, but get it done.
Yep.
Okay.
And then that was really it.
That was it.
That's it. Huh?
It's 6 feet. It's
Slowly.
It's 6 foot tall in there.
Oh, it's 6 feet.
Yeah, it's 6 feet inside the pipes. They hire somebody like me.
Yeah.
I actually, when I was very young, we did some work for Treasure Salvers Inc. off of Key West in Florida. And that's why they liked me. It wasn't that I was that great a diver. It's just I was very small and I could fit in places that other people couldn't.
Yep.
You could have gotten that job for the outfall.
I could have not. Okay, there was no North Bay Watershed Association because of the meeting this Friday up at Sonoma State, so.
But the conference committee, we've been meeting 2 to 3 times a month, planning this for months. So I hope y'all coming to this event, and you can do virtual if you can't be there in person. And thank you so much for putting this in the packet. Lovely. So hope to see you there.
Okay, consent calendar. Matters listed under this item are considered routine and will be enacted
sorry.
by. Oh,
I think you might.
the
have-
most important thing of the whole agenda. I bow in reverence. Verbal report by the general manager.
All right, thank you, President Borstein and board members. I've got 6 items to cover, but should be pretty quick. First is on Tuesday, May 28th. We will have the 125th anniversary celebration here. It'll kind of function like a ribbon cutting event for our remodeling project and the site work that's getting wrapped up next month. And we're going to have the ceremony right here in front of the building, just in this front area here, where a new plaque will be put into the bench right over here. And so we'll celebrate that. And we're in the process of planning that event. So mark your calendars, Tuesday, May 28th. And that's around the midday hour, right? I think, around noon, I think, much like we did our last ribbon cutting event.
Is there going to be a tour of the building?
I don't see why not.
Yeah. What time is this? May 20th?
Came in
From when to
Conway
when?
a couple weekends ago and mentioned that to him, so
Is it one?
I'm hopeful he might show up and say a word.
What
Okay.
times?
Yeah, so the event will begin at 1 p.m. But certainly be here before then, getting ready to go.
And the Blues Brothers, Jake, we're getting the band together. The Force Main Brass Quintet.
Oh, yes,
Said they would
I
come.
heard a rumor there might be music. Yeah, that's good. So, okay, my second announcement, and you mentioned it, is this Friday, April 19th, it's the North Bay Watershed Association Conference. It's being held at Sonoma State University. And it will be attended by 4 of us staff, myself, Phil Benedetti in the audience here, Kevin Lewis, who is our O&M superintendent, and Christina Velazquez, our management analyst. And as reported last month, we're sponsoring the conference at the water collaborator level. And we're featured in the conference brochure as celebrating our 125th anniversary. I noticed these big 75s there for both North Marin and Sonoma Water. And then we have this humble little 125. It's like, yeah, we've been around about a half century longer. So that was kind of a hoot. And then, so my third item today, we've been talking about collaborating with the San Rafael Sanitation District. Right now, the discussions have paused about, it was early last week, the district manager, Doris Toy, informed us that San Rafael is not interested in relocating to 2960 Kerner, but they considered it. And that we should go ahead and explore other options for managing the property, which was our former headquarters. So we're still working with them on some details of potentially, helping them out as if they request it. But those discussions are on pause right now. Number 4, there was another conference recently last week, the statewide conference held by the California Water Environment Association, or CWEA. Their annual conference was in Sacramento. And at that conference, I gave an updated review of the infrastructure asset management plan, and our consultant HDR explained how that IMP document was put together and the analyses that were conducted. And then I explained how it was being used for implementation over the last couple of years and how it's numerically reduced the risk of our system just in that brief time frame of 2 years. And the presentation was very well attended. It was the largest meeting room in the conference, and it was packed and standing room only. So what that told us was the sanitary districts of the state of California are very interested in Ross Valley Sanitary District and our story about how we've navigated compliance and how our relationship is with the water board, and some of the innovations that we've achieved, and just our ability to get capital projects done. There's a great deal of interest in the state about what this district is doing. And it wasn't just my presentation. John Vogel also submitted an abstract that was accepted about the smart covers and how we use them, and more feedback. His presentation was detailed about the 5 or 6 ways we use smart covers. It was followed by another jurisdiction that just didn't have near the depth of strategy that we were implementing. And there's certain things we do that even smart cover, the company, didn't think of, such as using smart covers in wet wells and pump stations. They said, "Oh, that's a really great idea." Oh yeah, it is a good idea. We've actually averted 2 or 3 spills thanks to that. You're welcome. Yeah. You can tell your clients. Oh yeah. Oh, sorry.
The smart covers stay there permanently. It's not like you're like, I remember for a while we were rotating them around, but
Nothing's permanent, but we have certain sites that we don't move them. There's a strategy. Some we keep for a longer period of time. Other ones we move around for different reasons, especially like if we're going to do a capital project to do before and after the capital work, where we've really been able to document significant changes in water levels thanks to the work we're getting done. So so John Vogel's presentation was very well received. And then Manny Vigil received an award for gimmicks and gadgets for the manhole covers that we invented for the Memorial Park in San Anselmo. That received a statewide award under gimmicks and gadgets. Paul Brummer helped Manny apply for that, and he was honored. So we had a good run at the annual conference, and we're already talking about some ideas of things we might submit for abstracts for next year's conference, because people want to hear from Ross Valley Sanitary District. I guess winning collection system of the year last year might have helped too. So
I was gonna say, do we have to pass our our crown to somebody else?
I don't know if you know offhand who won.
Who?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. So anyway, that was a great experience. It was really, and Josh Hill also attended, and it was nice to network with others, with staff last week. Moving on, just real briefly, busy with the capital projects right now, especially the gravity sewer project. And just one thing of note is we had an ambitious goal of getting some work done at Wade Thomas Elementary School during spring break last week. And we hit the target like a bullseye and got the work done. And it's paving's complete now, or at least the plug paving's done in time this week for, all the elementary school parents to come through without a hitch. So thanks to Phil Benedetti and the project team for threading the needle on that. And then my last thing, this item 6, is we're excited. It's a brave new frontier, the business breakfasts that we've put into our business plan as a creative mode of outreach to try to get the word out to different audiences to help ultimately do a better job of preventing sewer spills, but getting our work done in the permitting side of the house and communicating our expectations with other local governments, also coordinating paving projects, coordinating with realtors, so they know the rules as far as our lateral ordinance, all these different audiences. So we actually have 4 business breakfasts that we're going to hold here at the new facility on next Tuesday, April 23rd, then the following Tuesday, April 30th, following Tuesday, May 7th, and then Thursday, May 9th. And we're going to have there are different times of the morning for the different audiences, and we'll be excited to report back to the board on how they went. So this is a great idea. I'm enjoying participating in the planning of these events because it's an all staff affair, especially on the administrative side of the house, but to really engage our partners out there and communicate our expectations, but hear from them as well. And that's all I have for my report. Thank you.
Item 11, verbal report by board members and requests for future items.
I don't have anything.
Okay. Consent calendar. Matters listed under this item are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. The consent calendar may include resolutions. Therefore, the motion, second, and vote will also be applicable to the resolutions and reported accordingly. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless requested by a member of the board or the public prior to the time the board votes on the motion to adopt. Would anybody like to pull anything off the consent calendar? Motion.
I'll move consent.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, item 14. Consideration of authorizing the general manager to execute contract change order number 1 with Glossage Engineering for additional work on the FY 23-24 Gravity Sewer Improvements Project number 955 in the amount not to exceed $221,945.
Oh, thank you, President Borstein, and Phil Benedetti is walking up to the podium. I'll just briefly introduce this as a change order amendment of scope of work that's really the same type of work going on within this gravity sewer improvement project adjacent to areas where we're working. I mentioned the Wade Thomas Elementary area. And this is a similar pattern that we did last year. You might recall we added some work in the Pasadena, Santa Cruz Avenue areas of San Anselmo, adjacent to some work we were doing because we were currently designing that work for the following year, which is actually this year's. But there's some urgency and opportunity to get the work done a year in advance. Same thing here, where the Adalia and Redwood work is nearby. It was going to be designed, but we fast tracked it with the competent contracting team that's out there right now to do this type of work and the difficult easement. So we're asking the board's permission to augment the contract to be able to have this work done a year in advance. And that's all I wanted to say generally, but then hand over to Phil, sorry, because of the similarity of last year's request. Okay, thanks, Phil.
Thanks, Steve. So this change order adds about 400 feet of replacing 6-inch clay pipes in a difficult easement, as well as 270 feet of 4-inch clay pipe that's going to get replaced. As Steve mentioned, it's in an area directly adjacent to our current project and where the contractor is at this moment in time. They're on Ross Avenue. This project is up off of Vidalia Court and goes up to Redwood in San Anselmo. The project or this area was identified by our maintenance staff after we had, I believe after we had finished design of the current project, and it was slated for the 24-25 gravity sewer improvements project, which is in design currently. Granted that we got a contractor that is skilled at this manner of work and they're working in the directly adjacent area, it was kind of a no-brainer that Glossage would be a good candidate to take care of this difficult easement. There's a number of factors that complicate the work in that area, including some sensitive site improvements that have been installed over our main, but Glossage is no stranger to getting pipe into these sorts of situations and making sure that everything is cleaned up properly. The contract is increased by $221,945, represents a 3.7% increase in the contract value. And the prices that they've offered are in line with their competitively bid prices per foot. And it offers a very large value for us, and just on face value as well as administrative time, we're able to remove it from the 24-25 gravity sewer project, remove that from the design scope that we would be paying another consultant for. And that is also a benefit to the district by taking care of it this way. With that, if you have any questions, let me know. Sure.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. And
so vitrified clay pipe, I forget what percentage of our mains are VCP, vitrified clay pipe. I believe it's like 68.
68,
68.
66, 67%.
All right, good. I had
About 67% of our system, over 2/3.
Any idea how old this pipe is?
this one. I usually put it in there if I have the records available, so I don't think we do. The other stuff in that area is anywhere from anywhere in I would guess around the 40s, from the 1940s, so 80 years old, 75 years, well beyond its service life, as much of our system is. But yeah, and to answer your question specifically, vitrification, I believe it has to do with the way that it was fired. It gets fired in a kiln, and there's like a glass-like substance that's on it when it's new, that makes it really smooth, but it's rare to find. When you buy new vitrified clay pipe today, that's what it looks like.
But you would never use it for sewers.
Well, some districts actually do install clay pipe when they don't have a concern about inflow and infiltration or root intrusion. I can't speak to the decision to use that, but it is still used.
Desert would be a good place for it.
Maybe.
Yeah. Oh, certainly. If you ever meet a supplier of clay pipe, they'll emphasize that it has a lot of things going for it. But actually, here in this district, vitrified clay pipe was used in 2010 to do micro tunneling under the Kent Middle School Library. It's engineered clay, so vitrified clay pipe is a viable alternative in certain installations. Yeah. But it isn't really in our,
It's not the go-to.
it's not the go-to. Because
Applications, and you can't use it in pipe bursting,
that's right.
which is how we're replacing.
Yeah, it's a balance.
It will
spigot.
get burst.
Tom has a question.
Well, kind of a comment. This is one of those projects where we're working really close by and staff has identified that there's a problem area right around the corner. And so, and I think it was scheduled for 1 year later.
Right.
So it's a real advantage to
Yeah.
take it.
And the contractor is currently ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
So they,
And he's good at it.
excellent.
No, I thought Phil made a great point about their track record in dealing with, we call them surface improvements, but that might be somebody's outdoor kitchen with the nice flagstones,
Mm.
and, or nice retaining walls or even a greenhouse, and so we find all sorts of things on top of the public main, and Glossage has a great track record of somehow replacing those pipes and not disturbing those surface improvements.
That's great.
Knock on wood.
Okay, well, do I hear a motion?
Okay, I'll move that we authorize the GM to execute a contract change order number 1 with Glossage Engineering for additional work on Adalia Road and Redwood Road in fiscal year 23-24 gravity sewer improvement project number 955 in the amount not to exceed $221,945.
A second.
Mary seconds. All in favor?
I,
Is Doug sitting there?
no, he just stepped out. He got a call.
Yeah, okay, well, we got 4, so we're good. Thank you.
Hey, just keep
Okay,
comfortable up there. I won't leave you hanging too long.
item 15, consideration of approving contract change orders number 6 through 9 in the total amount of $268,266.28 and adopting resolution number 24-1653, approving final acceptance and authorizing the general manager to file notice of completion for the RVSD headquarters consolidation project number 901-A with Kirby Construction Incorporated.
Good. I don't have much to add to that other than, yes, when we issue notice of completion, we start the clock on paying retention to the contractor. And so that's a way to close out the contract once for all. And that's where a lot of their profit is. So to the contractor that remodeled this building on our behalf, it's beneficial for us to move forward with this finding of a notice of completion and filing it. And I'll just note that there's a lot of detail in this package and we're open to answer any questions, but I'm going to hand it off to Phil, and also note that Jamin Park, our construction manager, who did a great job on this remodeling project for us, is available to answer any questions as well that you may have based on this detailed package of things wrapping up at the end of this remodeling project. Phil?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. I don't have a lot to add to the scope of the project. I mean, you can see everything that we've done. It was complex, to say the least. There are a lot of details in this type of a project, tenant improvements. Yeah, I'm glad that I do sewer work. It's a lot more straightforward. I'm very grateful that we had Park Engineering at our disposal. Jamin and Chris provided excellent inspection of all of this and tracking a good portion of work that came in during through force account, which is process in our contract where they perform work and we track it over time. So it becomes quite intense in terms of the inspections that are needed. And Park Engineering did a great job of tracking that work, negotiating with the contractor, and keeping everything organized. You see there's another 4 change orders to approve that build off of the previous 1 through 5, which were the original change for moving the boardroom down here and reorientation of a number of things. That process, we didn't end up executing it as a lump sum as previously, but the dollar amount was incorporated into that force account process. And we increased beyond that in change order number 6. That's the added force account work that's captured there for $260,413.33. Change orders 7 and 8 are both for lighting changes through the building. The Title 24 requirements are a bit more complex than I would have ever thought, to make sure that an energy efficient building is installed. There's all kinds of controllers and light sensors that make sure lights are dimming when they should, so that we're minimizing energy consumption. When certain changes happened, we didn't fully capture some of that work in the original scope of the changes for moving the boardroom down to this location and some other spots. So you'll see those change orders are number 7 and 8. And then change order number 9 is a credit to us for all the work that was eliminated by some of the changes, and then other items that were deleted as possible. And that's a decrease in the contract value of $63,685.95. So that's all summarized in the tables in the staff report. And yeah, just again, a big thanks to Jamin and Park Engineering for helping us through this one.
Okay.
Yep.
Jamin came to the finance committee meeting yesterday. And so thank you again, Jamin.
Thanks, Phil. I just would point out too, and it's all in the staff report that you put together, but the original budget that we had for the remodel was 2.9 million. The bids came at 2.4 million. And so with the additions that you approved in October 2022, as well as these proposed additions, gets us back up to about the original budget level for the building remodel.
Thank you for that. I just want to comment. I really appreciate the information. It's very well done and very clear with, what went on and all the complications. But I wanted to say that absolutely fabulous the way you brought it to the board. I mean, I can just look clearly and ask a question. Oh, there. Thanks.
I want to know how you keep track of it. How does that work? I mean, I'm looking at all these line items. How do you do that?
I mean, I would attribute that to the excellent record keeping by Park Engineering. I mean, this table that you see is one of the attachments to the change order. It's 4 pages long, and this is a simplified version of it. They really are tracking every single hour, every single receptacle, every single conversation that they have with the contractor. It's like I said, I'm glad that I usually do sewer work. I don't.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if Jamin, you have any thing to share with Tom as far as how what's your secret in tracking so much?
I'm not really sure if there's a secret. We basically track every man hour that's on the project. So every trade, every personnel that's on the site. Chris was instrumental in doing that because he's actually on site the entire time, tracking every individual working and what they're working on. And then as far as quantity of material, he's the one that's actually collecting all the tags, measuring all the material that's going in, tracking all the equipment that's actually being worked. And then he and I go through it every week to tabulate the costs that's associated with it. And that's sort of how we came up with all the budgets, the amount of work that was extra, the amount of work that we've actually taken credit on, and the total final price, which at the end, we end up sitting down with the contractor and spent several hours, maybe several weeks of going through and, negotiating and arm wrestling on a few little things. But that's kind of how the total budget came to.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is the importance of just having people present on site while the work's getting done and tracking that
If
carefully
they
on
hadn't done it
materials and
weekly,
labor.
It'd be impossible at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
My God. Okay. Well, we like the result.
Mm-hmm.
Do I hear a motion? Tom?
See, I'm on the wrong sheet.
I move we approve contract change orders number 6, 7, 8, and 9 in the amount of $268,266.28. Adopt resolution number 241653, approving financial acceptance and authorizing the general manager to file notice of completion for the RVSD headquarters consolidation project with Kirby Construction Incorporated, and to authorize release of the 5% retention at the end of the 35-day lien period.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Jamin, for joining us and your work on this.
Thank you.
Item number 16. Consideration of authorizing the general manager to approve a purchase order to reimburse the city of Larkspur for adjustment of manholes, frames, and covers in conjunction with various paving and storm drain projects in the city of Larkspur in an amount of $183,452.
Yes, we work closely with the city of Larkspur, especially in the last year or two, on their utility projects, paving and storm drain projects. And this represents a cooperative arrangement where we make sure our manhole frames and covers, when they're readjusted after the project, meet our standards and prevent infiltration and inflow especially. And so I'm going to hand over to Phil, who's been tracking this closely and can describe the proposal that we're asking your permission to move forward with today.
Thanks, Steve. So this includes reimbursement for several invoices from the city of Larkspur that you'll see attached to the staff report. I believe there's 5. If I miscounted, I apologize. But the invoices are, as Steve stated, for adjusting the frame and cover of our manholes and also our rod holes in streets during paving projects, and also during stormwater projects that require surface restoration and thus pavement restoration. So during that process, they typically will remove the frame and cover and put a temporary cover on top of it. They then pave over it and then either grind and pave or whatever they're going to do. They restore the asphalt and then dig down to our manhole and then reinstall a concrete collar with a new frame and cover. And what that's doing is replacing a critical part of the manhole that is susceptible to inflow and infiltration, any water that's flowing through the subgrade of the road finds its way right into that portion of the manhole. It's pretty well documented that that's a big source of I&I, and the benefit to the district by doing this, by having these replaced, is stopping that source of I&I, and also working closely with the city of Larkspur. During this process, we get additional quality control by having one of our inspectors come out every time they put in a new manhole collar. We inspect the reinforcement that goes into it and ensures a manhole that is frame and cover that is going to stay in place, which is not susceptible to I&I, and is also a safe one to drive over with your cars as you drive through the public streets of Larkspur and the rest of the district. The prices that they offer get reviewed by myself, when they put a project out to bid, they then receive bids. We have the opportunity to reject that price. If it is too high, we would then need to self-perform under certain stipulations. But on these projects, their price per manhole adjustment, the invoices that you see here in the relative scope of things are fair. They were found to be fair at the time, and in general are in line with what would be expected for that type of work. So they were approved, and they are ready to be reimbursed. And
Yep.
yeah,
One point I'd add, thanks, Phil. Great job. One point I'd add is that we did budget $75,000 for this year, but also previous year, I believe. And this amount exceeds that amount, 75,000, but that's because some of these invoices are for work done the previous fiscal year, I believe. So this has been a long time coming as far as the request for reimbursement from the city.
Yeah, well, I noticed that like the unit prices are all different for the same thing. A Justice sewer manhole is 1,150. Then it's 1,000. This is 1,090. And this is 800.
Yep.
What are they, different bids from?
yes, those are from each one of these paving projects that they list at the top there of each invoice, or kind of just at the top of the table. If you see there, each one of those, so like on the last, starting from the end of it, you have Bowman Landscape Construction for Magnolia Avenue. ADA Improvements was the name of their project. That was when it was publicly bid, and that was the price that they had.
Oh, that's the lowest one.
They are the low bidder,
Yeah.
and not necessarily on this item. So we do see a fluctuation where maybe the contractor would attempt to put a lot of their profit into something like this, but they know that we have the right to reject it. So I don't think they're trying any funny stuff with us.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't fluctuate that much.
You were correct.
Right, but it's true that, yeah, the low bidder overall gets the project, but it doesn't mean that the frame and
unit
cover unit price is the lowest of all the bidders. And
Is in line with what we see when we do it ourselves, or we have somebody else bid it out?
Yes. Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's reasonable.
I'm glad we're working with the city of Larkspur. So
I don't remember seeing one of these ever before. So is this the first time that we've done this, or am I just not recalling?
we haven't had one for a while. I do remember an item, and this one I refer to a lot because I look back at it as a precedent or whatever. It was May 2019.
Okay.
We had an item reimbursing not just City of Larkspur, but also Town of San Anselmo and County of Marin for request reimbursement for this work.
And are we getting a better manhole than there was there before, or are we just, yeah, okay.
That portion of the manhole, it's not a complete manhole replacement, but that area in the, basically from the cone up to the finished elevation, the top of the cover, that whole portion has been replaced. But
it might include grade rings that, you know, that form the difference between the cone, which goes down to the barrel. So the cone is where the manhole becomes more constricted to fit the frame and cover. And then sometimes there's an adjustment for elevation on the final pavement that will use grade rings. No smaller than 6 inches, I think, right?
Right.
Yeah, according to our specifications. So these concrete rings to make up the difference in elevation between the cone and the frame and cover.
But we're making it better than it was. I mean, it sort of seems to me like if they did the paving project, aren't they responsible for putting the manholes back the way they were before? But we're contributing because we want to make sure it's best it could be today.
yes.
Okay.
Essentially.
Actually, well,
Our responsibility.
yeah, we're in their right of way and they require us to.
Okay. Yeah.
Right, but as Phil's pointed out, we do get a better product at the end because it's refurbished per our standards. And by having this review role, and yes, we do reimburse the cost, but we ensure that it's done per our standards, which prevents I&I. And the existing setting, more often than not, there's excess I&I going on, as kind of a rebuttable presumption when you go to any given manhole in our system. There's issues there near the top. As you can imagine, truck traffic, vehicle traffic, it causes a wear and tear on that infrastructure and cracks form.
I have a broader question. Are all the towns in our district, do they inspect these or do we? Is there like a report? I don't, like Mary said, I don't remember except the one you just said from 19 maybe. But it seems like they should be coming across more of these. Am I right? Are they not doing them or?
So, not all of the jurisdictions bill us for these. Yeah, it's kind of town of San Anselmo here and there, and so I can't speak to that. I can't say that they won't ever bill us, but I would say that that's not consistent. So maybe that's why it's not ringing any bell for you. But we do inspect. When we're notified of paving projects, we engage with the contractor and track their work on our infrastructure and make sure that we are that our standards in terms of access as well as the construction of the new infrastructure are upheld.
There is an uneven commitment to paving projects amongst the 5 jurisdictions where we operate. And so there's 4 municipalities in the county, and so the any given year the scope of pavement projects within our district is very uneven. So don't really have, in my time here, I don't recall any significant work in the town of Fairfax, for instance. Yeah, and
We don't.
Well, when
repair
the
those.
county does paving, it doesn't come to us for reimbursement for the manhole cover.
well, it has before, but it's been a long time since the last time we received a request, right?
I have not seen a request for reimbursement from
Fairfax has the worst PCI pavement condition index in Marin, and they have a road measure tax on the planned for the November ballot.
Right.
They replaced Larkspur,
Yes.
who did a big projects.
Bond.
I see. Yes. So, and this is, we advise the board to budget about $75,000 a year. That's in our proposed budget next year as well, just in case these things come up, because our recommendation is that we get a better product by participating in this type of process. But we, as Phil points out, we can certainly track the process outside of a reimbursement agreement. Because it is something rather new. I think the city of Larkspur, under a great deal of pressure to do a lot of paving projects and trying to make ends meet, requested that we participate in this reimbursement process, and we're recommending to the board that that's a good idea to make sure that our infrastructure is protected.
I'd like to make a motion.
Tom would like to make a motion.
I move we authorize the general manager to approve a purchase order to reimburse the city of Larkspur for adjustment of manhole frames and covers in conjunction with various paving and storm drain projects in an amount of $183,452.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you,
Thank you.
board members. Thank you, Phil. We had a marathon tonight.
He's gonna come ask us.
Okay. item number 17.
That's good. We have our O&M manager, Paul, has got some highlights to share. I'll just let you take it away. Paul.
Thank you, Steve. First off, March was a no spill month. Yay. So another one in the books. Hopefully keep them coming. Doing a lot of work out in the field, getting ready for some upcoming pump station improvement projects, the 2031-32 project. The first description of some of the work we did out there, you'll see, was that Riviera Circle is kind of particular. It actually has somewhat of a gravity bypass. So when pump station 31 or 32 go down, when the level gets up to a certain height, it can bypass for a certain amount of time down into the collection system over to 33. And we, in preparation of getting ready for the force main bursting to replace those old asbestos force mains, we did some testing out there just to verify that it's all operating correctly before we turn it over to a contractor and say, yeah, just turn everything off and let it go for a day, So we did some testing over there. We brought in about 7,500 gallons of reclaimed water from CMSA to utilize that to help get the system up and surcharged, just so we weren't standing around all day waiting for everybody to flush their toilets that weren't home during the middle of the day. And everything worked as planned, went really well. So we're lining up to get ready to start bursting some force mains over in the Riviera Circle. This is also a site where we just recently moved a smart cover to monitor the levels in the manholes and surcharge manholes, just to verify we don't have any spills, and we keep an eye on it when we're not around. So another great use of the smart cover system. Really appreciate your guys' support every year with renewing that and helping us keep going. It's really been great being here and utilizing it. Line maintenance crew doing the good work they do. They responded to an emergency call from one of our inspectors. The inspector had been doing an inspection with a contractor, and the plug let go and went down the line, took off down the main line into an 18-inch. And luckily our staff were close and were able to go and grab it out of the line so it didn't get caught in a pump station or a grinder or whatnot. And something we're really trying to work with, especially with plumbers and whatnot. Because if you look down a little bit farther, we had a large root ball that the crews found under line maintenance, a 6-inch main, and the root ball was 4.5 inch. It almost took up the whole main, and nobody had called us. We happened to find it, so luckily we found it. But that's part of these business breakfasts, why we want to reach out to plumbers when they're doing work out there, and really have them notify us so we can just catch the debris and be done with it, so it doesn't lead to situations down the road. Excuse me. The repair crew utilized the brand new VACCON CB03, our shining new star of our fleet. The repair crew has really been utilizing it to do hydro excavation. So that means they don't have to bring out a dump truck, a trailer, a backhoe. This 12-yard truck, they can pull up, they can vacuum out all the dirt. They can pull it aside. They can do their pipe repair. They can have somebody come by with a fresh load of clean dirt, dump it in the hole, out you go. Compact it, little paving. But they were able to remove a 4-inch root that was actually crushing our main right at one of the manholes.
It looked like a boa constrictor.
It was huge.
It was just wrapped around the sewer.
It was crushing a lateral right next to it. So they were able to vac it out, do the repair, backfill, and get out of there in one day. And was really, really economical way to use the equipment and get staff in and out. So it's been a really big help. And thank you for your approval for all our suggestions for equipment and whatnot. Just want to show that we're using it out there for you and making good use of district funds. Condition assessment's been continuing, looking for failing laterals. We found 3 more this last month with roots. We updated our community outreach letter because I know we had some issues before with defective laterals. So now it has a root section. It has a lateral connection deficiency section. And then we explain that to the homeowner when we send it out, which problem they're having and what they can do about it and how we can help with rebates and whatnot like that. So we're really trying to take some of your guys' comments and incorporate that back into our outreach with these homeowners and whatnot. You guys have any questions?
Yeah, when they do a repair, do they just repair what, the connection to the main, or a lot of times they just do the whole lateral?
It depends. We try to, are you talking about the lateral enforcement, right?
Yeah, the lateral.
Yeah,
program.
we really try to tell the staff or the homeowners the benefits of either or. If they fix their connection, the only other requirement we have is that they put a blow off valve next to their house so that if it ever does back up, it doesn't back up into their house. So they don't already have a clean out or whatnot. But we tell them the benefits of changing your whole lateral. You can get a rebate, you can get funding, you can, which is not available if you're only doing piecemeal. But so we are getting a lot of full lateral replacements.
Yep.
And also the benefit of the certificate of compliance
For 20 years.
for 20 years. So if you do the whole lateral, it's then any kind of remodel or sale, it's covered.
Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it.
On station 15, still leading in the percentage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Forever.
always will.
Forever, Mary.
Month after month.
Indeed. Interesting though, it came down from 70%. Now it's just 2/3 in March.
Clogging the whole
It's,
drainage.
it's dry.
Yeah, but when it's March though still. So, but it'll be interesting this summer though. It'll maybe even dip down below 60.
Still the leader.
It will always be.
Nothing else? Next meeting, special meeting on May 22nd. 2024, 5 p.m. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.